very excited to get this going and get it started. I'm here with my cousin and one of my great friends who I'll allow to introduce himself. Of course, you know, I'm Matrix. This is my channel. Take it away.
Hey guys, I'm Obi-John Kenobi would be my handle. My name's John. I am a certified geek, a software engineer, a dungeon master, and hardcore gamer since I was a kid, from the 80s. I've been playing games since the 80s, man.
Weird flex, but okay. Yeah, so anyways, guys, like I said, this is titled Enter the Geek Matrix. Essentially, this is something that I've thought about and we have kind of discussed from time to time. I've thought about doing for a while. Basically, there's really no holds barred here. The general idea of it is any and all things geek. Anime, video games, manga, movies, television, comics, you name it. This is what we're going to be talking about. I don't think either of us claim to be experts on any said topic. It's just built around a general interest in these things, and us wanting to get to know you guys and talk to you guys and inform you on some of the stuff that we're interested in at the time.
Now, I definitely have a lot of knowledge, and especially obscure knowledge in gaming. You know,
Yeah.
Like I've gone back. I've played games like Zork, an old text-based RPG. The whole game is just text, and you enter in.
I think I've seen something.
Yeah,
like that.
so I have very obscure knowledge, but I wouldn't say I'm a master of any knowledge field or anything like that. I do have a lot of experience in RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Well, and so I just recently started getting involved in D&D myself. John here asked me to get involved, and he's the DM for the game we're running, and so far I've had a lot of fun with it.
I'm glad, man. You're definitely a blast in there. The wild card aspect of it.
The wild card.
is great. It creates a chaos element that one keeps me as a dungeon master on my toes, so it makes it fun for me as a dungeon master to try to figure out, you know, how to course correct when the chaos happens. And two, it adds to the story, you know, that unknown element.
Right. And honestly, I was skeptical about getting involved in it just because I'm so used to being in front of a screen, having the controls in my hand, and then now you're throwing me into this world where I really don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's great because you don't have the controller. All you have is your brain, but you're so much more unlimited in Dungeons and Dragons. You could literally tell the Dungeon Master, I want to do this.
Right.
And the Dungeon Master, if it's within reason, is going to help you figure it out. Now, if you say, I want to jump 20 feet in the air and climb this building, the Dungeon Master is going to look at you and say, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You could try jumping.
We're not making shit up.
You can try jumping as high as you can, and I'll tell you if you make it or not.
Yeah.
You're not going to accomplish jumping 20 feet.
I'm sure you're going to waste an action on that, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
So.
And that was one of the things I'm learning as we're going along is that, you know, it is, even though there's still, you know, certain guidelines, it is, the possibilities are kind of endless. Being like critical thinking and being intuitive about some of the things that are going on is really what helps guide you through this. It's not like a video game where you just level your character up until you're this absolute badass and you just go through and wreck people.
Angry gods.
That's not the way it works. For instance, that one session we had where I just happened to walk in that hallway and I spent the whole session in a trap. I was in a literal cage the entire session. Great time.
I've never had more fun in the cage in my life.
Yeah. But you know, wild card. I mean, I'm the undisputed king of fall damage for a reason. I'm a wild card for a reason, and I like to keep people on their toes like that. Playing a lot of first person shooters, everybody's like doing their thing, looting up, whatever. And they're like, wait, where's Matrix? I'm on the other side of the map. Guys, I need help.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I used to play World of Warcraft back in Wrath of the Lich King, and I got into it. And I had a buddy in the army. His name was Smith as well. And he used to always sing Fleetwood Mac's "You Could Go Your Own Way" to me, because we would be going through the dungeon, and all of a sudden, all right, where's Smith? Where the hell is Smith? And I'm like off in some other corridor, getting ganged up on. I'm like, I don't know where I am, and I need help. So,
what's up, Ram? What's up, Toasty?
Yeah, guys.
So, anyways, guys, like I said, this entire thing is just gonna be based around any and all things geek. I mean, when new news, trailers, demos, gameplay footage comes out and things like that, we're going to do our best to stay on top of it, especially if it's something that we're really interested in, of course, and get any info, thoughts, knowledge we have out there to you guys. Also, at the same time, we're very open to suggestions. whether you're in the chat for the live stream, and we're going to get working on getting this uploaded to YouTube and things like that too, possibly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you go check it out there, comment down below. We're going to pay attention to that. This is from us to you guys. So if there's anything you want to see us discuss in the future or anything like that, just let us know. My Discord and everything is linked in the Twitch, so if you want to get in there, get a little more closer to me and talk about some things, no problem with that. Absolutely, your feedback is just going to help me grow this. Like I said, this is the very first episode, and of course there may be a few hiccups and bumps in the road there. Ultimately, yeah, right. This is a learning process for us just as much as it is for you guys. So, anyways, Final Fantasy VII,
Dude, I've been waiting for this for so long. Ever since they announced and you know, Square is really big on, hey, let's remake this game. Let's remake this Final Fantasy. I think there was a while where they remade Final Fantasy IV on like every platform for like 5 years. It was insane. But when they said we're going to remake Final Fantasy VII and it's not going to be a remaster, we're remaking it, I got excited because this was one of the biggest games I played when I was a kid.
Well, it's iconic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just not even just in the Final Fantasy realm. I mean, it's probably the most popular Final Fantasy game.
Yeah,
but even just video games in general, Final Fantasy led the way in a lot of things.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the apexes of JRPGs,
right?
And especially since it was so popular in the West, it wasn't the first game to do this, but it was one of the first games I encountered that killed a main character.
Yeah,
and you know, and we could see from the popularity of Game of Thrones, like how impactful killing a main character is, and
it's heartbreaking.
It is, and you get attached to them.
You love these characters. You get built into their lives.
You know, and it's a testament to the storytelling that I did get attached to that character. And I will say there was a part of me that was pissed because you spend half the game leveling that character up, and then it's for nothing. And then you're like, well. And then every time you replay it, you debate. You know, do I level them up?
Yeah.
You know, even though
you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but then there's benefits of leveling them up because they're actually a good character.
Yeah.
Just it's heartbreaking even replaying it.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but yeah, the remake looks fascinating. They've released footage of it. They at E3 they gave demos and released actual gameplay footage, which was phenomenal. And they've switched it from the turn-based style that it used to be to a very action-oriented style.
Well, we've discussed before, I'm not a big fan of the turn-based thing. Like Final Fantasy 15, I did enjoy that when I played it, you know, the little bit that I did, because the turn-based, it just... At that point, I feel like I should be playing like D&D, or a board game or something, you know?
Yeah.
Now, granted, I played, I think it was like Final Fantasy 10, and then I played 12, and they were fun. I enjoyed the Final Fantasy games. It's just the turn-based, like, I kind of have to sit myself down and get into that grind to just play through it. And I'm really glad that they changed this up on the remake.
Yeah, well, I mean, and to be fair, back in the day, that was really the best way to go about that kind of combat, because in those old style games, like, there were very few that handled the action aspect of it very well. You know, when you have Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1, you know, you had a game like Medieval, which was
Which they're remaking that.
I saw that.
Yeah, that comes out this month, by the way.
But it was a really good 3D action game, but it wasn't really the best. And to have 3 characters going with you, it wouldn't be able to be a good. So the turn-based was kind of a necessity thing.
Well, and it makes sense too, because even like in the world of D&D, you've told me before, if you're like a seasoned D&D player, then, you know, depending on whichever character you pick, you each kind of have a role as far as how you play out combat. I mean, and it's the same thing, for instance, like playing Call of Duty competitively. Each character has a role that you play as, but anytime I played a Final Fantasy game, it was just me. Yeah. It was just me playing it, so having to, like, command 3 different characters or what have you, and remember all their different stuff and things like that, it wasn't something I was used to. Yeah. So it was kind of a learning curve in that sense.
See, I grew up, before I even got into Final Fantasy VII, I played, they're called SRPGs, strategy RPGs.
Okay.
One of the most iconic ones is Fire Emblem. I never really got too deep into Fire Emblem. The permadeath kind of pisses me off. I understand the allure of it, you know, your choices matter and stuff like that. I got really big into a game called Shining Force. And you would go into battle and have 12 units that you could control, and each unit had attacks, abilities, ranges. You'd have archers, mages, healers, and you control 12 units and fight
Kind of
these
like
monsters.
playing what was it, Halo Wars, where you were essentially commanding like different squads.
Oh yeah, and it was like on a grid.
Yeah.
Imagine essentially
strategery.
Yeah, strategery. Well, imagine it's essentially Warcraft before Warcraft came out, the old RTS.
Right.
So that's what these SRPGs were, and I was already playing those, and I played Final Fantasy 1 on the Nintendo, which if you've never played Final Fantasy 1,
Mm-hmm.
I highly suggest you give it a try. They have a really great port of it on mobile phones for iOS and Android.
Okay.
The graphics are kind of cartoony and old school, but still really good.
Right.
And what's really cool about it is the general story that's being told. And one of my favorite parts of it is how advanced the story was. In it, they have a time loop.
Okay.
And that was the fascinating part of it. You find out about the time loop somewhere near the end of it, but the fact that there's a time loop in this story of Final Fantasy on a Nintendo is just incredible. Like that they had that kind of story writing back then.
Well, it's amazing the games were now that we're older and kind of seasoned, like veterans of the video game world. It's amazing looking back on older games like that, and you see how advanced they actually were for the time. Because a lot of people want to focus on like the graphics or the gameplay themselves,
Right?
But just looking at the story and the character building that goes into these games is amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean, and with the 7 remake, man, speaking of graphics, I mentioned earlier, it's wonderfully made. It looks so good, and I personally wouldn't be surprised if this remake trumps the original.
It might. It's possible. I'm not gonna lie. There are scenes in it that you can actually see Cloud's Buster Sword, the iconic Buster Sword.
Yeah.
It's got the 2 holes in it, and typically you put the materia in the equipment, and you can see in the different screenshots there are actually the gems in the Buster Sword are different colors.
Really?
So it almost looks like equipping certain materials on Cloud will actually reflect in the world as you're attacking and stuff like that.
So it's kind of cool. like forging or like leveling up your weapon when you put these gems and things in it. It gives it other abilities.
Well, what I was talking about was purely cosmetic. But
it's just a cosmetic aspect.
No. So actually, they just released another screenshot of the actual menu, and the menu was showing you how you could equip material to the equipment, and there was an interesting aspect of it. It had a part where it said if you equip this materia in equipment, it will actually give you a resistance to this element.
Okay.
Of the element of whatever the materia is.
Right.
If you put a fire materia in your fire armor,
you're resistant to fire.
You'll get like plus 5% to fire. If you put it in your weapon, it'll add plus 5% weapon damage as fire damage.
Okay.
So that adds an interesting aspect because now you're putting elemental aspects into your weapon attacks.
Right.
So if you go up against the ice monster, and it's not just enough to have the fire material on you where you can cast fire.
It would be advantageous to
now
be able to hit him with some fire.
So it used to be you kept the fire so you can cast fire on the ice monsters.
Right.
Now you have fire not only to cast fire, but your weapon does fire damage too, which is fantastic. It adds a whole new level, and I like it.
Well, see, and that's what's great about being able to change your weapons like that. Their abilities or capabilities, the different things they can do. Because I've been in games before, or even like in movies and television, they say a particular character is kind of specialized in this one thing. Think like Avatar. Okay, like you have your fire users and your water users. Well, fire versus fire, it ultimately just comes up to who's more skilled in martial arts or stronger. But I like being able to, I got this fire emblem I can throw in here, or I got this water one I can change out for when I go up against a fire creature of sorts, a jack of all trades, essentially.
Yeah, well, Pokemon played heavily on that.
Yeah, man.
I can't tell you, and I played a lot of Pokemon to where I considered going like competitive with Pokemon because of the teams I was building, and the way you can build a Pokemon team and put a whole different set of abilities on a specific Pokemon. Like I remember one of my favorites was Gyarados, and you can have Waterfall, which is a stab. It's the same type as him, so it does more damage.
Right.
But then you can have Earthquake, which is ground, and it takes care of those lightnings that are going to come out and hit you. And then you can have an Ice Beam all on the same Pokemon, and then you have a team to help cover other weaknesses.
Right.
And it was a really cool, the elemental aspect of it and the elemental tactics is a really, really cool mechanic to put in a game.
Yeah. And see, when I first started playing Pokemon, like the original Red and Blue and Yellow, which was amazing because you finally got Pikachu. But and that was something because I was a child, so it took me a while to figure that out. I'm over here like, busting ass with Charmander,
Yeah.
leveling him up, and I've got like this level 60, but then I get up against a strong water type, and
Oh yeah.
God.
Well, I think they said Charmander was the hardest one to start with because of the way the gyms were ordered.
Yeah.
But you can actually
because you got Misty second? It's Brock, right? Brock, then Misty.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes the next guy was Surge, Lieutenant Surge. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
the lightning.
Yeah, so you're essentially going up against 3 that you don't really stand much of a chance against.
Yeah.
So that could be pretty difficult from the
Oh,
start.
Yeah. I always went with Squirtle for my starter. But hey man, Blastoise is a beast.
Blastoise is a badass. I had a level 100 Blastoise that was my baby.
The water types are tanky, but and you could get the Pikachu in the first one. You just didn't start with them. But I remember you go into the Viridian Forest.
You had to search forever.
Dude, you had to grind for that Pikachu, and it wasn't even good. It's not worth grinding for.
No, you're spending 2 solid weeks just traveling around that forest.
You're better off going down the road, getting your Eevee, and
you're
fucking
probably
giving your life
not even catching it the first time.
No.
He's gonna get away.
No, you're better off waiting until you can trade for the Eevee and turning into a Jolteon.
You're
exactly, better off with that. But back to the Final Fantasy VII,
right.
Adding the elements to the weapons and adding the elemental resistances. They had materias for the elemental resistances in Final Fantasy VII, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine if they're doing that for the armor, then they're going to remove those, which kind of streamlines a lot of it. Because I remember one of the biggest things in Final Fantasy VII was having way too many materia. And you have to then choose what you want on your character. And you can't really customize it. So you add more customization. You take away some of the materia, but still leave choice. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
D&D did something similar. They kind of distilled it and then streamlined it. And they allow for abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
So in 3.5, there used to be like hundreds of classes. Just different kinds of classes for everything. There was a fighter. There was a samurai. There was an archer. There was... and all this stuff. And what D&D 5.5e did is they said, we're going to try to abstract these classes as much as we can and give you as much freedom within them. Mm-hmm. So you can take the fighter and you can make a sword and board, or you can make an archer, or you can make a samurai.
It gets to be just too much, having so many different things you can choose from. And
it risks breaking the game too.
Right, yeah.
So... but I'm very excited for that kind of flexibility. In the screenshot of the Final Fantasy menu, they also had in the center this like glowing orb.
Mm-hmm.
And the video I was watching, the guy didn't know what it was for, and what he was saying kind of made sense. It looks like it's something that's going to open up later in the game.
Yeah. So
that's interesting too. That there's going to be something that we don't even really know.
You think
about.
Maybe they're adding on a little bit to the story, or
I suspect. And then this is just my ruminations of I'm basing this off nothing other than so for those of you who don't know, I'm a software engineer, and I got my degree at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and my focus was on video game design with a focus on artificial intelligence. So as a game designer, what I think would be a really good idea, what might be cool and what might have done, is if they did something similar to the Guardian Force summons from Final Fantasy VIII. Mm-hmm. So in Final Fantasy VIII, you would find these summons, which they're called different stuff in all the different ones. In 6, they're called espers. In 7, they're summon materials.
Are there different types of summons?
Not necessarily. Like Ifrit is Ifrit across all of them, and so is Shiva. But they just call them different things. So like in Final Fantasy VI, they called these beings espers.
Okay.
In Final Fantasy VIII, they called them Guardian Forces. Mm-hmm. And what you would do is you would attach a certain Guardian Force to a character on your team, and that character could then summon the Guardian Force, but then they also got added benefits.
Okay.
So I remember Diabolos, you could actually had an ability that you could unlock that would turn off random encounters, which people freaking loved it because everyone seems to hate random encounters.
Nobody likes
it. I get it. But again,
you know how much time you put into trying to avoid the trainers in Pokemon?
Yeah, I know. I get it. And at one point it's an abstraction, and it's the best they could do. But at the same time, Chrono Trigger didn't have random battles, and it still had that very same JRPG style. So it became a commonplace, and it may not have been the best.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get people not liking it. But I think what they may be trying to do is take something similar to that Final Fantasy VIII Guardian Force, where you attach the summon materia, but the summon materia is the big one.
Okay.
And and each player would be able to attach one summon materia, and that summon materia would give you other benefits.
Yeah.
So, like, Ifrit may give you more strength. Shiva give you more magic. Well, Rama would probably give you more magic. But
well, and again, all this, this is just based off your own thoughts about what
it's what I would
be.
do
Now, and because we still have plenty of time. I mean, it doesn't come out until March 3rd.
Yeah,
I believe
2020.
of 2020. So we, tons more can be released, especially now it's getting down to the end of the year.
Yeah.
This is really when newer games and stuff starts coming out and things start really showing what they're going to be about.
Yeah. Well, they have said they have a finished playable game.
Yeah.
They're polishing it, but from what I've read, it's finished and playable.
Okay.
So.
Well, they've been very kind of quiet about it too. I mean, up until here recently, they started releasing a lot of the actual gameplay footage and things like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Japanese developers learned the page from Breath of the Wild, because it got delayed and to the point, a lot of us bought a Wii U expecting the Breath of the Wild to come out on it, and then it got delayed so far. It's like, oh, we're going to make it a dual release on Switch and Wii U, and it works better on Switch, so screw you guys, buy a Switch. And,
that was a great marketing technique, though.
And it happens, I get it. And I think, I forget who the designer was that said it, but they, he said, a prematurely released game is bad forever, but a delayed game is eventually good. And I think they took a page from that and determined that it's better to kind of not talk about it too much in case it does have to get pushed back until you know for certain you're going to have a hard.
Well, you don't want to half-ass something like that. As much money and time already goes into making a video game anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to half-ass it. If you feel like you still need a little more time to kind of tweak a few things here and there, make it just right, just the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely put it off. I don't want you to release a half-assed game because you feel like you're going to upset me if you don't release it when I thought you were going to.
Yeah.
I'd rather you take the time to make it better. That way, when I do go buy it and I sit down to play it, I don't get pissed off because it was half-assed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my thoughts. I'd rather wait. Quality over quantity.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it is they understand that, Final Fantasy VII is so near and dear to people's hearts that if they screw it up, they're done.
They'll never make another Final Fantasy again.
Square will be done if they screw up Final Fantasy VII. And it won't, from what I see, there's nothing going to be a fail about that game. What the issue now is they basically said, that the game's going to run to the end of Midgard, which is like a third of the actual game from the original game.
Right.
And, when asked if they're going to make it a trilogy or something like that, they basically said, we'll see. So what it really comes down to is how successful it is. So I don't think this game's going to fail, but I think the defining factor here is going to be how successful it is, and if they finish that story to the completion. Because, I mean, if you do a Final Fantasy VII remake and we don't make it to the end and see one-winged angel Sephiroth beat his ass, I'm going to be severely disappointed.
That in itself, even if you don't know anything about Final Fantasy, you know that.
Oh, One-Winged Angel? Yeah.
You know that.
That's such a well-known song.
So, and that's, because we were discussing this just a little bit before we actually got started with this, and they have to release the rest. I mean, they're going to have to make it because that, even if they remade it poorly, that right there is going to piss people off.
Oh, absolutely. It will. And I will say, I'm such a huge Final Fantasy fan that I don't even own a PlayStation. I'm buying one specifically to play that game.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Only for that game. That's all I want to play on it. But then once I get it, I may get like Spider-Man and God of War. Cause
the Marvel Spider-Man was fucking... God of War was
I've heard those are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the Spider-Man game itself, man, and not only just the cutscenes, but even the gameplay in general, very well done.
Yeah, well, it's like Grand Theft Spider-Man, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, if you want to turn Spidey bad, you can get the choice.
Speaking of, I've also heard they're remastering the Simpsons Hit and Run.
That was a classic.
Which is Grand Theft Simpsons.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's having an open world game has been such an iconic thing, and I think that's going to be the biggest problem for me if they don't do a second and third part of Final Fantasy VII, is because once you escape Midgar, that's when the world opens up.
Right.
That's the first time you see the world map.
Yeah.
And then you have this immersive, expansive world of Final Fantasy VII to explore. And if you make this game and it's amazing, great for you, Square, but come on, open worlds and world maps are so big right now. It's insane not to do it.
Well, and the reason why I think they're so big is because there is so much more secrets to be found in an open world. Whereas, what was it? Link's Awakening that was just remade, right? Well, you know, in games like that, you can travel around. You might find a secret dungeon or tomb or what have you. But there's only a certain few spread out in this kind of linear, you know, traveling area. Whereas with an open world, the possibilities are endless.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's going to be awesome to see if they go on with Final Fantasy VII with the remake. Is once you get into that open world aspect of it, man, it's not just blocks and stuff that you're looking at anymore. You know, you got some real detail and things like that to look at. It's going to be crazy to see how they do it.
It'll be Japanese Skyrim.
Badass.
I mean, it's a JRPG Skyrim.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
I'd play the hell out of that. I'm not gonna lie.
I might quit playing every other game I have. I'm not sure, dude.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be fun. One thing I did like is, you know, they the way they started playing with the different enemies. So like flying enemies are really tough for Cloud to hit, which is why you have Barret, because he can shoot them. And things like that. But the way that they did it is whenever you're doing your regular attacks, you build your ATB gauge. And for those of you who never played the original one, your ATB gauge in the original was essentially your turn timer.
Okay.
So you sat and waited, and that thing would just fill up as you sat and waited. And when it was full, you could take your turn. In this one, you can attack freely. But as you're attacking, as you take damage, your ATB gauge fills up. And once your ATB gauge fills up, then you can do your special abilities like your...
kind of like your gauges in like Mortal Kombat and like the Injustice games. You have that gauge for your like special...
Yes, and that's basically what the ATB gauge for is now. And one interesting thing they've done is, you know, they've made the regular attacks where they do deal damage, but not so much to where they're very potent.
Well, I was watching the gameplay that I was watching earlier. I mean, all three of the characters were attacking this monster.
Yeah.
And I was looking up at his health, and I was like, oh my god, they're not making a fucking dent.
Yeah. So the regular attacks don't do much, but what the regular attacks do is they build up your ATB gauge.
Up to that point where you can
hit the massive attack, and then that's the damage dealing stuff.
Right.
And so what they've done is they've done that, and then they also said for the fans of the classic, for the fans of the turn-based RPGs, they implemented a classic mode.
Okay.
Where basically you won't have to control anything. All three characters will be AI run, attack the monster, move around, and then once the ATB gauge fills up, that's when you as the player take over. Okay. So it evokes that turn-based feeling that used to be. You know, you wait for that ATB gauge to fill up before you make a choice.
Right. If you were so invested in the original, that's the way you want to kind of go back to play it, you can do that.
Or if you're lazy and you don't want to fucking hit the trigger button 30 times.
Like
I'm just saying, you know. And here's the thing, and to go back to the turn-based thing, I will tell you, like, there have been a lot of the JRPGs released on the mobile store. Yeah. A lot of them are remastered. I know Dragon Quest is on Android.
I did see that.
A lot of the Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, that kind of thing. Those are great for mobile games because, you know, if you're sitting wherever you're sitting, the DMV or wherever, you can sit and play them, and you don't have to be so engaged that you can't pay attention to what's going on around you.
Right.
But you can still be engaged in the game, and if you get called, you just close it out, put it in your pocket, and go. It's not like anything's going to break or anything like that. Yeah. So those are really good for mobile gaming. You know, especially if you're an old school RPG head like I am. You know, you want to relive some of those classics, but you don't have the time. Just put it on your phone, and whenever you're sitting down somewhere not doing something, you can play it for a while.
Right, and guys, just FYI, they do make controllers that you can buy that do plug up to your phone. You have one, I believe.
I do. Mine's actually Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So, the cool thing about it is it's got a little an arm that pops up, and I can hold it open and put my phone in.
Oh, yeah, I remember you showing me that, yeah.
it turns my phone
into a DS right there.
Yeah, it turns my phone into a handheld system, which is great. But I also have the Note 8, and so the thing's massive and the thing's top-heavy.
Yeah.
But if you've got a regular phone, it's fantastic.
Well, that's like, you know, they just released the Call of Duty mobile.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought about trying that out.
From everything I've seen, it looks really fun. But then again, as someone who plays real Call of Duty,
yeah.
Call of Duty Mobile is for people who like to play Call of Duty but don't know how to play Call of Duty.
Yeah, well, I will tell you this. So, as a dad, a lot of my gaming time is very limited, and
right.
a lot of the time I have access to a system or computer, and I can have that sound going and that kind of immersion and talking on the headset is very limited.
Right.
So something like Call of Duty Mobile is fantastic for guys who are dads or who don't have very much time to play, because you can sit in your bed at night You know, when you're laying down for that last hour, when everybody's scrolling Facebook or whatever the hell they're wasting their time on, pop up Call of Duty and play it on your phone.
Get in there, clap some cheeks, go to sleep. Yeah.
So I can see some benefit to it, you know.
Well, and like I got a buddy, he's in Encrypted Gaming with me, and Call of Duty Mobile came out, and apparently he figured out a way to play Call of Duty Mobile on his phone, but he linked it to his PC.
Nice.
So he's in here posting this stuff, and he's just destroying kids on Call of Duty Mobile. But little do they know he's cheating because he's playing on his PC. So
no, you can actually get a Android emulator.
Oh yeah, that's right. But he had like. He posted a clip of one match, and he had like a 23.0 KD, which is unheard of.
Yeah, well, because everybody else is playing with the touchscreen controls.
Right.
I imagine getting one of the controllers would up your KD ratio.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because I've watched people who had like a cam on their hand, like on the screen, you know, and watched them, and it's... You're spraying and praying, essentially, while you're doing it, because your thumb's just kind of all over the place.
Oh,
so you're not, like, pinpointing where you're touching, you know?
Yeah.
So... But yeah, there's a lot of things that have been coming out with mobile. And doing.
So that's a huge market now. You know, a few years ago, whenever I was getting my degree, they referred to mobile gamers as casual gamers, because a lot of the games on mobile stores were the casual gamer is not a negative nomenclature. All it really means is that the person isn't a hardcore gamer. Right. Those were the two gamers that they were looking at, a hardcore and a casual gamer. So neither one is a negative term. But what it really means is the casual gamers were playing games that didn't require a very large time investment to get good at.
You just kind of hop on when you can, run a few, get off, no harm, no foul, nothing. You don't lose anything.
Candy Crush, Flappy Bird, all the stuff that you can get good at it, but to play it and enjoy it, you don't really have to.
Right.
Whereas a hardcore gamer is somebody who devotes tons and tons of time.
Right.
So like Fortnite. To get good at Fortnite, you have to put in hours.
Lord knows I have.
So that's a hardcore gamer.
Right.
And mobile was great for that. But what I'm seeing now in the mobile store is they're trying to bridge that gap between the casual gamer and the hardcore gamer. And they're introducing things like Fortnite for mobile.
Well, and with crossplay coming out, I mean, you can... And don't get me wrong, now, when like Fortnite mobile first came out, when you came up against someone, you could clearly tell if they were playing on their phone or not.
Yeah.
But now, man, there's people are getting really good with it. They're kind of figuring out how to play it, because it's so different. It's a different play style when you're playing on something like that.
You're learning new technologies.
Right.
And I think that's what I used to have a buddy who was a competitive fighting game player, and that's what they used to call their technologies. I was like, it's not technology, man. It's a technique. Did you ever watch Dragon Ball? It's a technique.
Right. See, and that's what I'm really excited about too. Now it's getting close to the time when a bunch of new games are going to be rolling out.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you mentioned earlier, Medieval.
Yeah.
That's something I remember from my childhood as iconic.
Yeah.
Because I played the crap out of it. I loved it. Maybe because it was a little more cartoony.
It was very cartoony, but it was like grim cartoony.
Yeah, but it was really cool. You were like this undead knight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's awesome. I love the fact that they're remaking games, and thus far, every game they've remade, I don't recall hearing any negative feedback on them. I mean, the Spyro Reignited or whatever trilogy, it looked really good. I haven't actually played it yet.
I think it's just a remaster. It's basically the same game.
Yeah, but it's something like this. It's called like something Reignited. No, because like even the Crash Bandicoot, there it's the Insane trilogy.
Right.
So it's still the same 3 games. It's just they put it together into one name.
I can't think of any remakes that failed. I can think of a few that were puffs of smoke, like nothing really ever came of them.
Yeah.
Like Bionic Commando was remade, and then there was all this buzz about Bionic Commando being remade, and then when it came out, nobody cared, stuff like that. But that can happen to any franchise. I remember, and going back to the topic you talked about, taking your time to finish a game. That doesn't always work, because lest we all forget Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
When that came out, it was just it was more of the same, and it was good, but it took so long that people were expecting a game changer.
And I was really excited for it. I thought maybe it was going to revamp, but it just kind of went away in smoke, a puff of smoke, and was just gone.
Yeah, well, it was just more of the same. The reason why the new Doom series is so successful is because they reinvented it. Mm-hmm. They took all the things that the original Doom was great, and then they kind of like the strategic movement is a big thing, in the original Doom, and they kept that. But then they upped the speed. They did that with the glory kills, and that just ups the speed, but it still feels like a survival game.
Right.
So, they remade it, and they reinvented some things. And that's what I've seen whenever the games are successful. When they remake the series or anything like that, is when they take the things that were good about the original, and then they rework the things that were not.
Right.
And I think Final Fantasy VII, the remake, is a good example of it, because they took the turn-based aspect of the ATB and these great skills, the limit breaks, the summons, and all that, but then they reworked the things that weren't. The random encounters, the only turn-based combat, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and all this new stuff they're coming out, whether it's remakes or even just new games in general, there's a whole new generation of gamers out there right now.
Yeah.
And they kind of want to cater to those people. So people like us, we remember the original 7.
Yeah.
When we played it, we lived during that time. These new kids haven't. So if they're thinking of remaking something, they got to pump it up.
Oh, yeah.
They got to make it look awesome and really get these new people, because that's what's going to drive it up.
Yeah.
Is getting this new generation in there that actually want to play it and that enjoy it. Because that's just where the market's going now. You have to continue to change and cater to those different, those newcomers.
Well, I remember at the beginning of Final Fantasy 15, it says a great game for long-time fans and first-time fans.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that. Which that was a good one.
It was.
I did like it.
It was a good one. I was a fan of 15. I won't lie. It took a while to grow on me.
Yeah.
I didn't like it that much at first. What really changed my opinion about the entire game is the moment I realized I was in the skill tree and I realized I could unlock something that let me switch to one of the other characters in the middle of combat. So one of the reasons I didn't like it is because you always played as Noctis. And while Noctis is cool, Final Fantasy was always about having a party, and I can tell the party what to do and control the party. So I was like, it's fun, but it feels more like a different kind of game than Final Fantasy. And then I unlocked a skill that said, hey, press LB and this one and turn into Prompto. I'm like, whoa, wait, what?
That's a thing?
I can play as the other characters in this game? This is amazing.
How come no one told me about this?
Why didn't you lead with that?
That should have been lesson 1 in the tutorial.
It's like, hey, by the way, earn some AP and unlock this one. So, I mean, and it was great. It was really cool. I think what started to make me love Final Fantasy 15 was how all the Final Fantasy lore elements were there. The Phoenix Downs, potions, ethers, seeing the chocobos. The first time I came across a behemoth, which is a very iconic monster of Final Fantasy, I came across it, and they made it a behemoth. This thing is massive. And the first one you come across is like a scar across its eye. It's pretty badass. And then you come across a zoo, which is just this massive bird. And the first time you come across one of those, it spreads its wing and it's this epic music. And it's amazing.
It makes you feel like you're the actual one there, looking at it. Yeah,
it was great. So I think that's what started me. And then the moment I found out you could play as the other characters, that really opened it up. I wish it didn't make me switch back to Noctis after every battle. I have to switch at the start of every battle, but that's a small thing.
Well, see, and that's a lot of the reason too why I really wanted to do this podcast with you, is because although we're not very far off from in age difference, you grew up from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, you were there, and you've always been a video game lover.
I'm what you call an elder millennial.
Right, you're right there at the edge.
Yeah, if I was born a year or two earlier, I'd be Gen X. But
well, right, and just so you guys are aware, he is family. He is my cousin, and he was the one that got me into video games. I mean, my passion and love for games themselves started with this man here. So, like I said, we had already talked about doing something like this before, but it was kind of it was still a little drunk BS talk, you know. And then so this past couple of weeks, I really started thinking about it and really want to do it. And the only person I can think of I want to do it with, because of the vast knowledge you have already. Yeah. And then you have me, where I'm still a little bit closer to the newer stuff, so we kind of get the best of both worlds.
Oh yeah, you have a lot more knowledge of a lot of the current gaming and the competitive aspects of everything. Right. I deal, and even now, I keep up with a lot of the stuff that's going on, but you and I both kind of delve into different genres of what we're looking at and what we both enjoy. But yeah, no, I remember as a kid, the one of my first playthroughs of Final Fantasy VII. I remember you used to come into my room and want to play with me. And, you know, being a teenager and you've got Final Fantasy, and, you know, for anyone who's played a JRPG, you don't want anybody to touch your file.
Right.
Don't fuck up my progress.
Yeah.
So I remember you came in and trying to be nice. I was like, okay. I had the airship at the time, so I took you to Cactar Island, which is essentially the grinding area.
Yeah.
And I gave you the control. And what's great is I knew once I put you on the island, you could just run around there, and you're not going to leave because I didn't think you'd figure out how to use the airship. Yeah. So I was like, here you go, buddy. Just run around and fight stuff. And I went away and came back like 2 hours later. You gave me like 10 levels and a ton of gil and AP. It was great.
You see that, chat? Still a badass even at that age. What's up?
So that's called outsourcing.
Yeah. Yo, now I'm kind of pissed I didn't ask for like a commission off of that, you know?
I had to grind anyways. I'm like, yeah, here you go, man.
I put in work.
So, yeah, no, I remember that. It was fun, man.
Well, and that's something, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of, I still enjoy playing Fortnite and things like that. Obviously, you guys know that, chat, but I'm wanting to delve into some go back to my roots, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, fighters and things like that. Adventure games. And so that's what's great about something like Final Fantasy VII coming out. Mm-hmm. Is being able to, hopefully, which thus far it looks like they're going to do it well, hopefully it'll kind of help rekindle that flame that I had for those sorts of games. I mean, another one I'm excited for, DBZ Kakarot.
Yeah, that looks pretty fun.
I mean, you know, and that's just taking me back to my roots. I love my first-person shooters. I love my battle royales.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at them. But I'm just, it gets stale after a while. It really does. And that's why this time of the year is perfect. And it's even better that we're starting something like this around this time of the year.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be tons of stuff to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and again, both of us kind of being a little bit different on our likes. Yeah. But also, too, still having that common kind of interest. It works really well, especially with a bunch of new stuff coming out, because I might have some more information on one thing, whereas you might have more information on the other. Or maybe it's something completely random, and then we're both like, hey, we need to check this out.
Oh, yeah.
We need to talk about this.
I love learning new stuff, too.
Yeah.
You know, and I love first-person shooters, too, but they grew kind of stale for me whenever I was in my 20s. And now I've found that if you take the first-person shooter and you add in elements from other games into it, I absolutely love it. Borderlands.
Right.
Destiny. You add in RPG elements to a shooter, I am all in. Destiny put classes and, you know, the class system.
Because it gives you that kind of, that RPG kind of feel like, because you're building something from that.
And, you know, and you're progressing it and leveling it. And COD does have a bit of a progression and level, but you don't gain strength.
No, it's only guns and stuff. And you know what the funny thing about Call of Duty is, and I think for most people that I play it with, whenever you first start a new COD game, you get the first couple guns for each kind of, you know, gun class, unlocked your subs, your LNGs, ARs, and you get 2 to 3, 4 already unlocked, and then as you tier up, you level up, rank up in there, that's when you unlock the others. 9 times out of 10, no matter what Call of Duty game it is, the 2, 3, 4 best guns in the game are going to be the ones that you already have unlocked anyway when you first start the game. The rest are just perks. I mean, and if you start playing more in the competitive aspect of it, a lot of that extra stuff is banned or disabled. It's not allowed because a lot of it is very overpowered. Yeah. So the game in itself, there is no kind of real progression with it.
Yeah, and I won't lie. The last COD I played was Modern Warfare 3. And the first rifle you start with is the M4. Right. And that's the only one I ever used. Like, I unlocked all of the other ones, but I got the gold-plated M4, and I was a badass with that thing, dude. And it's funny because, you know, I was in the military for 6 years, and that's what I carried was an M4. So I was like, I mean, why am I going to carry?
You already had an affinity for the gun anyway. So I know how to use this.
So, you know, I got it, and I saw the achievement. It's like, get this many kills and you'll get a gold plate. I'm like, well, shit, I want a gold M4. Play the hell out of it until I got my gold M4.
Absolutely, dude. Hey, I totally get it because they still do that to this day with certain guns. I mean, you can get your diamond plated and gold plated and things like that.
Your unicorn wrap.
Right, yeah. I have one that's reactive. After I get a certain number of kills, it starts changing and glowing and shit. It looks really flashy. It's cool.
Purple pearlescent.
Right.
No, I get it. It's, it was fun. I enjoy it. It's a great party game. Yeah. So back in the day, before COD, there was, a classic that everyone knows, GoldenEye.
Right.
And that was a great party game, but it's not something that we sat and played to get good scrub.
Yeah.
We would play it as whenever we had 4 people over, and it was a fun game to play, and whoever picked Odd Job was an asshole. And it was a fun game to play.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a changing environment, the fact that people play these games now and focus on kill-death ratios and continually improve. And the professional and competitive players watch tape and stuff like that, and it's crazy. I have a buddy who is top tier in Destiny PvP. And
you told me about him.
Yeah, I always asked him, like, what can I do to get better and stuff like that. I didn't want to get top tier in PvP. I wanted to be able to hold my own whenever I was on his team.
You don't want to be getting pissed off because you're getting just destroyed.
Well, I mean, I come out and I'm like, hey guys, what? All right guys, I'm back. Because I'm playing with like some really sweaty people, and I'm like, dude, I don't need to be the top tier, but how can I like just get good enough to where I can maybe get 1 or 2 kills and not die every time I turn around? He's like, just record yourself and watch what you're doing and make notes of what you do wrong and what you do right.
Absolutely. Well, that's what was good with like when Fortnite introduced the playground mode and the creative modes, because you can go in there and just work on stuff. I mean, you don't have to worry about people coming up behind you, in the middle of an actual game and killing you while you're trying to, tweak some things.
Oh, it's creative mode.
Yeah. So you just go in there and you can drop by yourself, or you can have a bunch of random people in there. But it's not like the 100 people that's customary for a regular match. There's maybe 15, 20. But it's such a big map. I mean, you can just land somewhere and chill. And if you want to work on building, you can just sit there and crank 90s all day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you do. Like Landon.
Yeah.
My nephew Landon, that's what he does. He'll go into playground. There's a couple other random kids he's not even talking to, but he's just in there 90s, cranking 90s. Now the kid can build it way better than I can.
Oh, is that what it's called when you build like the stairs that just spiral up?
Yeah. It's like wall, stair, wall, stair.
I saw somebody doing that, and I was like, holy crap, you're good.
Oh, yeah. Because see, when I play, I can build well enough to hold my own or keep my ass alive.
Yeah.
I can shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a laser beam.
Oh, yeah.
So there's been numerous times where I get into the middle of a fight and somebody's in there cranking them out, and I'm like, yeah, let me drop back down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because I need help, because this is not going to go well for me.
I won't lie. Whenever I'm playing a shooter, man, I'm not thinking of building. I am there to be a master of destruction.
Yeah.
I'm breaking walls and shooting things and blowing shit up. That's all I want. I'm demo.
Yeah.
I'm not construction. I'm demo.
I've got 10 grenades. I'm throwing every damn one off them.
So I don't think about building shit. I'm like, I want to blow shit up. There was an old game. I think it was made by LucasArts. It was called Mercenaries.
I think I remember that.
And it was basically Grand Theft Auto.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I played that. I had that game.
Yeah, it was Grand Theft Auto, but you could blow any building up.
Yeah.
Like, anything in the game was destructible. It was one of the first games to do that. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it because I was just going around destroying everything.
See, that's always good. A game like that's Grand Theft Auto, basically. It's always fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me you ever played Grand Theft Auto and never just got in a car and just started running people over.
You know you're really bored when you're playing Grand Theft Auto when you start trying to follow the laws of driving.
And you're getting pissed off at yourself for not doing it.
You find out how difficult it is to drive the right way in Grand Theft Auto. Yeah.
They didn't make this game for you to do that.
Absolutely. But yeah. No, I'm very excited for the Final Fantasy VII remake. It's been a long time coming. It looks phenomenal.
Right.
It's not going to be bad. I'm going to go ahead and say that. But I think what the defining factor of it is going to be if it's successful enough to warrant another one.
It's going to have to be good enough to get huge in order for it to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, old school fans are going to buy it.
Oh, of course.
Obviously. But again, like we mentioned earlier, you want to kind of try and bring those newcomers in.
Absolutely.
Because there's already 15 Final Fantasies out anyway. They don't seem like they have any plans of stopping anytime
there's way
soon.
more than 15.
Well, you got your little...
There's the numbered ones, but then there's also Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy
Type
Zero.
Well, that's like you have this set, 7 seconds, we got like Tekken Tag and all that.
Yeah.
There's the little off-branch stuff.
But yeah, the numbered series and then even the numbered series get sequels. So there's 10-2, there's 13-2, 13 Lightning Returns.
So they have no plans on stopping.
Yeah.
So you got to draw in that new crowd to kind of keep that momentum going, so you can continue to pop these games out.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do that. I think the biggest problem they're going to run into is making the regular attacks feel like they hit enough.
Yeah.
And making it feel like it's not just keeping you busy while you wait for your turn.
Yeah, if people start to feel like that's all they're doing is just hitting those attacks to build up that bar to be able to make a real dent, then it's probably going to get too lengthy. It's going to feel too lengthy. Like it's taking too long to be able to do this. You know, it's not like D&D where we can spend the whole session fighting one guy.
Right.
Essentially, no. If I'm playing for 3-4 hours, I want to at least be able to hit maybe 2 bosses. You know,
D&D, the only game when a 3-hour travel takes 10 minutes and a 10-minute fight takes 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. The timing in D&D is all over the place.
Yeah, that's the hardest part of being a dungeon master too, is trying to invoke that feeling of time on your players, because you know you have to deal with, you can only do so many rests within a 24-hour period and things like that. So you have to kind of have figure out how to let your players feel like their time is flowing as they're going on and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's an interesting problem to tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I think we'll go ahead and cut this. We've been live for about an hour now. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any, I had a great time. Actually, this has been fun. I appreciate everyone who stopped by and checked it out. Once we get done with this, in the next few days, I'll have the video downloaded and re-uploaded to YouTube. It's gonna, whenever I have the time to do it. Again, if you have any suggestions or comments, you can put them in the chat down below. My Discord is linked in the channel. You can go to that. You can hit me up there any time of the day. I respond immediately and let me know what you think, any thoughts, or just what you thought of it in general. You know, like I said, this is the first episode, and there's probably going to be a learning process to kind of just keep it flowing well. Because for me, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I was super excited for it, a little bit nervous, but I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I've had a blast. Glad you guys could join us.
Again, guys, if you have any other topics, comments, let us know. Anything you want us to discuss. Obviously, as long as we have enough time to discuss it, be more than happy to. We're going to try and crank out an episode maybe once a month.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if we end up having enough time, we could do 2 a month. You know what? It just depends. But we're definitely going to try and keep it at about once a month. All right? I hope you all have a good evening.
Later, y'all.